Hey, Star Wars fans and Rule the Galaxy fans. It's just one of those nights here on Rule the Galaxy. Joe is in the pilot seat. I'm trying to be the second most pretentious guy on the show tonight by wearing my Luke Skywalker diff sunglasses. But we've got a great group of guests. A lot of our regular co-hosts couldn't be here. Some are on vacation, some are busy with work, kids, all that. But you know what?
Boycotting.
I went out and I recruited the best of the best. Only for our listeners do I bring this group together. We are having the first official Star Wars cage match tonight. All topics are open, and I want to hear them bring it from the top row, the top rope, I guess, or the top of the cage, whichever. So Rule the Galaxy. You can follow us at Rule the Galaxy SW on Twitter. Email us rulethe.galaxy@gmail.com. Just follow us at Rule the Galaxy on Facebook or YouTube. You're probably going to want to see this one on YouTube because we've got sunglasses, backdrops, and everything else going on in this show. But I digress. This is chapter 129. I'm going to bring on the guests because they're more important and more funny than I am. I'm going to start in alphabetical order with my good friend from Michigan, the one and only author of Star Wars and Marvel books, Mr. Adam Bray.
Howdy ho.
And Adam was on a slight delay there. You there with us?
I am. Yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay. And you're rocking the Cara Dune behind you there in the show. So I love it.
I am my enforcer.
So this is going to be a precursor.
We really need to admit Michigan to the Union.
Man. Yes, we do. And I'm hearing backdrop on somebody there. That's okay. We'll go on to the next one when we get everything sorted out there. All Mr. Right. Scott Ryfun. How are you, Scott?
Hey, I'm great, but I'm not alphabetically next. I'm a little surprised that you've huh? Oh, you're going by first name?
First names.
Who goes by first name?
Weird, pale Italian guys from Indiana.
You're one of those guys that puts Aldo Nova under A in the CD store, aren't you?
I guess if I ran a CD store. What are CDs, by the way?
Oh, yeah. Well, no, see, I used to work in the music store. And I remember we hired this girl who was she was about as smart as a dead log. And she started complaining about how the company doesn't do anything right. And I said, what do you mean? She goes, well, look, we got Aldo Nova and we have to put him under N. But Leonard Skinnard, we have to put under L. What is wrong with these people? So I digress.
Well, you know what? I used to work at Musicland when minimum wage was $3.15 an hour. That was one of my first jobs. And
$3.35. I was at Camelot.
There we go. Yeah. So we were battling each other from a distance, but we were there. Right. We were in the CD wars. You remember when they changed all the things over from albums, the sleeves in the record store? So you had to make the CD cases long, and the CD was on top, but there's all that plastic and cardboard underneath it. Is that just me, or do you guys remember that?
Totally remember that.
When they released CDs, they had to do that so the CDs would fit in there. And then eventually people started complaining about the waste. It's all ending up in the landfill, which of course mine never did because I kept them all because I thought they were cool. That was the art of records back then, you know. But eventually what they did was they replaced them with those alpha cases, the security cases that were the same length. We called them long boxes back in the day. I don't know what you called them there, Mr. Molinaro.
I don't. I remember making $3.15 an hour. That's all I was really worried about. Last but not least, in first name alphabetical order, your friend and mine, Mr. Steve Glosson. Steve, how you doing?
So many things to respond to from everything that has happened here. Pretentious wise, you win because I guarantee you paid more for those glasses than I paid for these. Yes. Secondly, listen, the immature teenage sophomore kid in me comes out when you say, what are CDs? And I want to talk about D's, you know. Since it's a Star Wars podcast, I'll say D's Huts.
No, there you go.
Thank you. Thank you. While we have been rated R previously because of some of our co-hosts dropping inappropriate language,
you got to be kidding me.
None of them are here tonight, so I'm okay. But anyway, so guys, I appreciate you guys coming on the show. I've been up and down with health and timing, so my co-hosts have been running a lot of the Rule of the Galaxy shows recently. But I tell you what, we've had some really good ones recently with Mark Newbold, with Jonathan Davis. He was absolutely great. The Star Wars narrator. And then we had Jake James Lugo, who I had never met before, and he did the show with my other co-host. He is he's a gamer, but he does a lot of Star Wars games on YouTube. And it was very, very good to listen to those guys do that. So thanks to our recent guests who've been on there. There's been a lot going on since the last we've all spoken. I mean, I know online we've spoken and things like that, but in the world of Star Wars, we finished up with the Book of Boba Fett. I haven't talked to any of you since the actual finish of that. So if any of you want to hit on some of that or rehash some of that, it seems like it's way in past history, because just the other day we had a great trailer for the next Star Wars big event, which is Kenobi, which I'm super excited about. I think I'm looking forward to that more than anything in the upcoming Star Wars world. I'll leave the floor open to you. Anybody want to hit on Book of Boba Fett and kind of encapsulate that, or let's jump right into Kenobi and say, wow, I'm either excited, not excited, or here's what I'm excited about. Anybody? Floor is open.
Well, I got to talk to Adam throughout the What If series that came on Disney Plus, and I never got to talk to Adam about anything with Book of Boba Fett during that series, and that's my fault. I never made the effort to do so. But Adam, there were a lot of times where I would notice on Twitter, especially, you had a lot of really cool insight and thoughts on what was going on, particularly when it came to the culture of Tatooine and stuff. I noticed that you were comparing a lot of what was going on to places you'd been and seen before. And so if you can call any of that to memory, I think it's worthy. I think that kind of stuff is podcast worthy.
Actually, call all of it to memory if you would, Adam.
Yeah, do it all. Every single bit that you can call to memory, do so. Yes.
Oh gosh, I haven't actually given Book of Boba Fett much thought since the last episode. So I admit it's not fresh on my mind. I think what it boiled down to it, I had similar thoughts with it that a lot of people did. That my favorite two episodes were The Mandalorian season 3, and I love those episodes. But that's part of the reason why the Book of Boba Fett, I think, was problematic. That I liked those episodes so much more than anything else that I saw in the show, including the season finale. As far as the culture on Tatooine, I like that we got to see more of the Sand people, a different color of that, a different variation. It reminded me a lot of the tribes in Asia where I lived, how every tribe had different traditional clothing and a different way of weaving their baskets, and different food and just different things in their lifestyle. So that was cool to see. I think they mentioned several, was it 7 tribes or something? I don't remember if they gave it a number of the Tusken Raiders. I would have liked to see more to that. I kind of thought that at the last episode that Boba Fett would be the savior of the Tusken Raiders, and that they would all rise up from the desert and get rid of, it would be the Tusken Raiders that get rid of the Pikes, and that they would get kind of their proper place in Tatooine, and get to share in some of the riches and just the land and everything, and that this would come back into play. And the fact that they just kind of dropped it and, okay, well, those are the first 2 chapters and we're going to keep moving and forget that ever happened. It's like, what was the whole point of this? There wasn't much point of the Tusken Raiders. It was just like just day on the path.
It was literally just, how did he get to this point from here? And there wasn't a lot of resonance, which in writing, you want to, everything that happens early should recur, because it should be there for a reason. And instead it was just kind of, here's our excuse. And I think they did the flashback, flash forward thing, because I don't think either segment was compelling enough by itself to stand on its own. I had a lot of people say, well, why didn't they just show the Sand people stuff and then the Tatooine stuff, the rest of the him taking over the daimyo and all that. Right. And I think a lot of the reason was neither was compelling enough to stand on its own. Mm-hmm. So they flash back, flash forward.
I think with a little bit of tweaking, the Sand people stuff could have been a little more compelling, but I don't think it would have taken more than an episode to get through. Mm-hmm. And Scott, you're the story guy. Like you're the guy who's like, you show, don't tell, that kind of stuff. And
it was my major in college.
But what I want to ask you about, because this was my thing looking at it, guys, is Boba Fett. We get all of throughout the original movies, we get all of 5 minutes with him in the original trilogy, and all of, tack on an extra 7 or 8 with Attack of the Clones. And everything else that people know and love about Boba Fett come from their own imaginations or from supplemental materials in really in the old expanded universe stuff and what's now Legends. And so the personality and the ruthlessness and even at some point the honor, because of the Mandalorian aspect of it and everything. I feel like I totally understood his motivation for why he was doing what he was doing, but I don't know if it was told in a way that was emotionally resonant for the audience or super clear for the audience. Because I remember seeing a lot of people say he needs a death and rebirth kind of thing. I'm like, that's what the Sarlacc.
That's what emerging from the Sarlacc was. Yeah, that is exactly what it was, with all of the afterbirth all over him.
That's right. Yeah.
I think one of the many big problems was that there was no contrast there. We didn't start out seeing what kind of a person he was to contrast with his journey and who he became. All of that was left to the knowledge that the viewer was already supposed to come in here with, which was mostly almost entirely based on the EU, because we've only had a couple minutes of him in the actual movies. And
look, my headcanon on him was always that he was kind of a man of honor. It was just kind of a different sense of honor.
You pay me and I'll go for it.
Right. Yeah, I felt like he was a guy who was doing what was morally right based on, who was in charge, who was running, what are the morals and ethics of the day with the Empire in charge. In other words, he's a lawman, more or less. He's just kind of an off the books lawman.
Right.
So I always kind of, in my mind, in fact, I would get frustrated. I remember getting frustrated writing a review for Echo Station, if you remember that way back in the day. I wrote a review for one of William Dietz's Dark Forces novellas, and it frustrated me because he's got Boba Fett in early scene. I think it's the second one. And he's got Boba Fett in one of the early scenes, and he's hiring Boba Fett as a soldier. And I kept going, that's not who he is. We've never seen evidence that he's just being hired as a mercenary per se.
He's not a soldier of fortune.
No,
right?
No, he goes and gets people who are in violation of the law and brings them to justice in a sense.
Or who
the Hutts who are the law,
who a criminal, who someone wants you to go and kidnap the highest bidder. I mean, we really see that with in the Mandalorian played out very well in the very first episode. Within the first 5 minutes, we see what a bounty hunter is supposed to be.
Yeah, and he can be mean and he can be cruel and all that other stuff, but at the end of the day, he is operating on a certain sense of ethics and a certain code of honor. Yeah. And again, as far as Boba Fett working for the Hutts, I never had a problem with his morality on that, because out there they are the law. So he is literally following what the local law is, following whatever the regional law is. And for him to just kind of be hired out as a soldier for hire or whatever, that always bothered me. But
so do you guys, sorry, I just,
go ahead.
We talk about, we've talked about in the past how Disney spends $4 billion to get the name, right? To get the rights to have Star Wars, to be able to use that and continue this name brand, this IP. And is this another one of those things where we talk about the sequel trilogy where there were some good points and bad points throughout the sequel trilogy, but could this Book of Boba Fett be something like, hey, while we're working on these other things, here's some ideas. We don't have enough of them, but we can piecemeal enough together and then throw Mando back in there to supplement things while we're working on some other things. I mean, did it feel to you like it was a little thrown together like that? Because I did enjoy the show. It wasn't a bad show, but I think they could have done a lot of things a lot better. Does that make sense?
I think it was hamstrung by the pandemic.
Really?
I think they didn't get to put nearly the resources into it. And I think I feel like it was They didn't get to put the resources into it. You didn't get the crowds that you would want. You didn't get, you didn't get it kind of opened up as you would normally. A lot of people kept saying, I don't understand. It doesn't look big like a film. And I think a lot of that's pandemic stuff. In fact, if you go see feature films now, it's funny. G-Man came to me. You guys were talking Batman when we first got on earlier. G-Man has been to see Batman a couple of times. And one of the things he came to me and said was, this is the first time that I've seen a big movie in the theater since pandemic era where the movie didn't feel like it was made during a pandemic. In other words, there were large crowd scenes and people were interacting together and that kind of thing. If you notice, a lot of the movies that have come out to this point in the last year and a half, if they weren't shot before the pandemic, you don't get a lot of that. And in this show, you really didn't get a ton of that.
That's a great point.
Well, I think, was it Adam? Was it you that said that? And look, I will say this: I enjoyed Book of Boba Fett. I just wanted to bring us all back together and talk about it real quick. If anybody else has any more comments on it, I think the next thing is you mentioned, Adam, that Kenobi looked cinematic. When you saw that trailer, I felt like it looked like a movie trailer instead of a Disney series. I don't know if you guys felt the same way, but man, when I watched that series, there were different times with the music, the scenery, the feel of it. Got some goosebumps. Like I was like, whoa, I'm kind of into this right here. I'm feeling what's going on. And then you add in Obi-Wan's, just, you could feel in his voice, you could feel in the words he was saying, the depth of what was going on. So looking into that, moving on from Boba Fett, where are you guys on this? Not only with the look of it and the feel of it, but Kenobi coming up. Go ahead, Scott.
Well, I was just going to say, do you want to move on from Boba Fett right now?
I mean,
and the reason I say that is because you're introducing the element of it looking cinematic, and Boba Fett was lacking that. A lot of people, that was a criticism, but that when the Mandalorian shows up and he's on Larry Niven's Ring World, all of a sudden that thing looked incredible.
Yeah,
I mean, that was the best looking episode probably of any of these series to date.
Yeah,
it was just amazing, and it looked huge and it felt huge, and again. And you could still tell it was pandemic era because, again, the people sitting at the table, they're all spaced out. There's no big crowd scenes unless somebody's dropped in the background. But it looked big and it felt big. That episode with The Mandalorian, that first one looked like a feature film.
Yeah.
So again, why they poured it all into that episode and not the other side. Or maybe they poured it all into Luke and they couldn't afford anything else for the rest of the season. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think they did. I think they budgeted the bulk. And to be fair, Dave Filoni does this a lot with Clone Wars and Rebels. You can really tell which episodes of those series get
the ones he cares about.
Yeah, the ones he cares about. They get a lot more money and a lot more effects, digital effects and stuff. But I think two more of the big problems in the production and the early putting this together. I think the first one is that this suffered the same thing that Darth Maul and the Clone Wars did. It's like in Clone Wars, George Lucas and Dave, they wanted to bring back, someone like Darth Maul, but Darth Maul was dead. So they did Savage Opress and, made up someone like Darth Maul, but not exactly. And he was so great. They liked him so much. George Lucas is like, well, okay, well, let's go ahead and bring Darth Maul in then. So then they have to figure that out. And I think that's what happened with The Mandalorian is they wanted to bring in somebody like Boba Fett, but not Boba Fett. And he did so well. Then Disney is like, okay, well then let's bring Boba Fett because he'd be even better.
But then they didn't allow themselves to tell as compelling a story with Boba Fett as they did. In fact, you want to talk about a real story flaw. To me, part of the problem with the Boba Fett series, and again, it's like you, Joe, I enjoyed it, but I mean, if we're going to talk about some of the issues with it, one is that he is a hero who doesn't act a lot. He is acted upon a lot, and he is saved a lot. I mean, if he doesn't have Fennec Shand, he's dead about 1,000 times. Black Chrysanthemum saves. I mean, everybody has to save. In fact, that should have been the name of it. Everybody saves Boba Fett.
Yeah, the book of how Boba Fett was saved.
Yeah, because Boba Fett as a hero never acts like the hero, and that's a frustrating thing. From Steve wanted me to bring up story stuff. That to me is one of the worst elements of the storytelling in that show.
The only time I remember him feeling like a hero was in the Mandalorian season 2 when he comes down that hill and destroys everything to do with the stormtroopers. That's
Yeah.
the Boba Fett. When I
Yeah.
saw that, I think we all saw that. That's what we thought, holy cow,
Yeah.
that's what we're getting ready to get in the Book of Boba Fett.
I thought
we're
the
like-
whole series was going to be that.
Yeah.
I think the other problem is Disney didn't have the confidence that they could go a whole year without Baby Yoda. They were afraid that it just wouldn't work. Baby Yoda is too important to he's too big. They can't do without him. So they took two episodes out of season 3 and squished them in the middle and reworked the Boba Fett series to fit around that.
Yeah,
And
it's so funny.
That's why the story suffered.
People kept telling me after Mandalorian season 2 was over, what are they going to do without him? And I was like, what are you talking about? He's the franchise.
Yeah.
He'll be back. If you think he won't be back, you're insane, because he's selling too much merchandise right now.
Right.
When the merch starts to tail off, maybe we'll start talking about him going off and doing some other thing or growing up a little or something. But for right now, he's going to be a big part of all this stuff.
So with going to Baby Yoda, that sticks out to me. We've discussed it on the show, and I want to get your guys' opinion. Does he need to talk sometime soon? Whether it's in the lifespan that he's in to equal out to what Yoda was, or whether it's the show itself, do we feel like he needs to talk, or has he been so scarred in the past that this just isn't going to happen? He's going to be a cuckoo, goo goo, gaga kind of thing the whole show.
I think, as Scott said, from a merchandising standpoint, it really works that he maintains this cuteness about him and everything. But if you can start to build to Grogu's first words, I mean, if I may take you back to 1997 and in a year prior with Sting in WCW against the NWO, here was this guy who had been this super, loud, charismatic guy, had been betrayed by his whole company, and so he paints himself up
turned
like
into the
crow and
yeah.
And hangs out in the rafters and doesn't say a word for a year and a half, and so when he's finally going to speak on the first Thursday Night Thunder ever, you're tuned in, you're like, oh, he's going to be there, he's going to speak, and he does. And it's like, that was kind of the build up for that moment after the big match. But then it was like, well, what he had to say was kind of a letdown, and it was all said and done. But I think you've got, gosh,
what did he have to say, Steve?
He said, "You're a dead man." He said, "You've got no guts, and you're a dead man." He was talking to the at the time the general manager of WCW, and then Hulk Hogan. But anyhow, the whole thing to me is like, yes, at some point that kid has to, or that man, because he's 50 years old, has to speak. Unless he's been in suspended animation in that little egg.
That species, they may not speak till 100. You don't know. I mean, think about it. A dog, they say first year they're like 7 years in age, but they're fully mature by a year. So, we age at different rates.
Well, he's going to have to get to a point where he's mature. So that 900 years is actually carries the weight that it should, because if 50 years old, he's still a baby, then 900 years really isn't that big a deal.
He's a baby that's seen a lot, though, Steve.
He has seen a lot. But I'm just saying, like Yoda, when he's like 900 years old, you read, Yoda's age is what lends a lot of weight to his wisdom. So
Agreed.
Anyway.
As Luke said, your lifetime is different than our, a lot of people live and die in the time you're going to live. So
he is literally the definition of wizened. Yoda is.
Yes. You were going to say something, Steve?
I forget. I was just like, let Baby Yoda talk. Let him talk.
Okay. So I opened the can of worms on Kenobi.
Oh, for Kenobi.
And we no. I wanted to
took
finish
us
that
backwards.
out. We needed to hit that. We need to hit those points because it brought up some very good ones. Where do you guys
Kenobi,
stand?
are you talking about the third series, the third sister series? Isn't that what her name is?
My God. Well, I had someone on Twitter say, all that's going to happen is this young lady is going to beat up Kenobi at some point in time in the show. That's I saw that and I was like, look, let's not go down these avenues right here. Let's just go with, it could be a good story and we could see Ewan McGregor again.
But we do have a thing in Star Wars. It's why I loved Cara Dune so much, is because she had the physicality of somebody who could beat the crap out of a guy, and you can go with it. I mean, look, okay, you got Leia doing it. Okay, fine. And then you've got Jen Erso then you got Rey doing it. She's 90 pounds soaking wet. Okay, fine. Then you got Jen Erso doing it. Then you're going, oh, come on, guys, really? At some point, 90-pound women beating the crap out of big muscled guys is not going to resonate. And it was starting to wear thin with me because it was the same thing over and over again. And when Cara Dune showed up, she had this physicality about her that I went, now this I would buy.
Don't forget Empress Nest. Don't forget a 16-year-old
girl. Empress Nest. Yes. Thank you.
Then don't go see Batman, because a 90-pound girl, and not to be sexist in any way, shape, or form.
Spoiler alert, everybody.
She goes in and kicks butt and takes names all the time.
It's
but
not
she's
about
Catwoman.
But it's not about sexism. It's
the
about
bag
physicality.
of bird seed I bought at Walmart today weighs more than she does.
But she's Catwoman.
This is
she's established in her thing.
And in story, you can make an exception. It's just the problem is when you're, again, it comes to the reasonable suspension of disbelief. And so when it happens and they say, well, this is why it happens, because she's trained and blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. But then when it happens again, you go, okay, there's another one. And now there's another one. And how many of them are we going to focus on? So that's why I liked Cara Dune being, and now we've got another one in Obi-Wan, like you say, but I liked Cara Dune having that physicality.
In all honesty, my biggest issue with the Kenobi trailer and everything else I really enjoyed was the look of the Grand Inquisitor. He's from Utapau, and they've done the Powans well in live action, and I'm sorry, he doesn't look like Uncle Fester. His head is not like Uncle Fester. His head is closer to a cone head.
And can we just establish from the outset that you can have liked the trailer while still finding fault with that?
100%.
And that doesn't destroy everything. It's this weird dichotomy we've got in Star Wars fandom where you have to love everything about it and make excuses for everything about it, or you hate everything about it. And you can like this and not like that.
Well, and the other thing is there's that good shot of the whatever brother he is walking like with the stormtroopers behind him.
Zuvio brother.
Yeah, that looks like bad. I'm sorry. Look, here's the thing. The makeup so far on these characters look like bad cosplay. And or what would be really good cosplay, but it looks like cosplay.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like a company who has the means and ability to really make something look like it is alien and not made up, not a costume. And that's the thing. When you go back to Star Wars, there's very little in Star Wars that looks like a costume. Even with the cantina, and in the cantina in that first series, in the first movie, some of those things are earthbound costumes, but because of the way the lighting was so dim and everything else, it passed. It got a pass. But there's very few things especially in the original trilogy that look like this is a costume. It looks natural. The zippers are hidden, all that good stuff. But I'm telling you, his face looks fake. It just doesn't look great.
Lucasfilm is showing a little bit of a pattern of having a problem bringing the animated characters to live action. I mean, you look at the Pikes. The Pikes were terrible. And, this started in Solo. I'm sorry, because I love Dee, who does him in Solo. So with no offense to him, it's not his fault. But I'm just not keen on the way the Pikes have been designed. And it's frustrating because they were my favorite alien out of the entire Clone Wars and Rebel series because they're so exotic. They're so unlike human anatomy. They don't even have the same number of fingers. They've got these funny heads, and their limbs are long, much longer than the humans. They're very unhuman human. But they've just got humans in a smock with a rubber fish head on top. And that, we've got the greatest effects company the world has ever known, and that's all they can do. It's a bit of a travesty. And they've done it with several other aliens as well that I can't think of off the top of my head. But, they need to do better with that.
Well, they've done it with the Gamorrean guards. The Gamorrean guards are they got the dad bods going now instead of just being full on. And for whatever reason, they feel like they got to go shirtless. I mean, part of the things that made the Gamorrean guards, excuse me, so mysterious was, you could see their big old fat legs and their fat arms, but like you didn't know what they had. You didn't know if it was a pig body under that
kind of
shirt.
a pig body.
Yeah. So.
It's funny you say that, because what you're talking about, a lot of what you're talking about with that look, and then again throwing it back to Book of Boba Fett as you did. Sorry, Joe.
Floor's open.
Is that you're talking about restricting a lot of things back to Earth and making them more Earth-bound instead of having to be more exotic. And I got that same twinge when the biker gang showed up in that first episode of Boba Fett. No, not the mods.
Oh,
okay. The K gang,
the swoop bike gang,
the swoop bike gangs,
having jean jackets on,
the jean jackets with the patches on the back, and I went, oh, what is this, Sons of Anarchy? All of a sudden, I didn't like that. It was too earthy. I was expecting Ron Perlman to show up, who actually looks more like an alien than some of the aliens.
I went full Paul Bateman when they were showing how they got his ship back, and they went to the kitchen in Jabba's palace and everything. And there were all of those stainless steel tables like you'd find in any kitchen, in any restaurant in this nation. And I'm like, you could have dressed them up.
Yeah, they're
could
ablaze.
have done something. Yeah, please, for the love of all that is good and holy, don't show me a pot that I can go down to Bed Bath and Beyond and buy off the shelf. Make it look,
or
like,
show it to me, but make me think it's something else.
Well, like the Tupperware cups they used in A New Hope, like they've just fit that whole aesthetic. They made sure that whatever they had fit the aesthetic, and it didn't take you out. And there are things that, and I guess it's just me having worked in kitchens and that sort of thing. That's one of the things that I noticed, in the same way that Bateman gets off on zippers and everything. But well, he does. He goes off on the zippers, and when I saw those tables, I'm like, I understand Paul Bateman. I understand exactly where he's coming from now.
But in all these discussions that we're having here, we're having these discussions because we are passionate about something that we care deeply about.
Joe is so scared of people thumbs downing this video.
No. I'm saying.
It's funny because
you just wait till I say what I want to say.
No, but I was going to say,
you're here for that.
I know where Joe's going with this, which is, it's going to sound like it's a bitch fest when, we do have love and passion for this stuff. And that's why we're talking about it in the first place.
Right.
Why we watch it.
We're only bringing up the negative things because we do have that passion for it. And we're not, it's not making us stop watching it. Right.
No, like I'm not going to watch Ms. Marvel, but that's the whole other thing.
Wow.
I have a lot to say about Miss Marvel.
We could go.
I have a lot to say about
I'm waiting on Adam. I'm waiting on Adam's thing.
I want to hear the thumbs down.
Well, I had one of those, what do you call them, last night, an epiphany. And, and I don't know how much of my epiphany I want to give away right here, because it occurred to me I can write a whole article on this. And
you teased an article?
Yeah,
you did. Well, give a snippet.
It's gonna take some time to put the article together because of the research involved. As far as how these things are coming and not looking great and they're looking too earthbound, I think some of that is budgetary, because it's easier just to pull sweaters off of Amazon, like that fisherman guy.
Yeah, the calamari.
Yeah. Some of it, it's a fear of cultural appropriation.
Ooh,
interesting.
Ooh.
Because that's where all the best of Star Wars has come. All the best of Star Wars has come from cultural appropriations.
That's a good point.
I will move on from there to something related, and this may get me in some trouble, but I think it's fair, and I think it's the legitimate reason. I think we can talk about it objectively. I think I have a theory about why the Inquisitor ended up looking the way that he did. I think it definitely applies to the first two Inquisitors. Maybe a little bit more of a leap to get to the Grand Inquisitor, but I think it's definitely applying to the first two. What's the lady's name? Is she like
is she like the third sister?
Third sister.
Second sister was Sarah Michelle Gellar, right?
Yeah. So we'll call the third sister. One of the things that got me about her, since we saw her so much in the trailer, is one of the great things about Inquisitors is they have these fancy helmets. Even the Grand Inquisitor, if I remember correctly, he started out, we would see him in a helmet, because I think the Lego toy has the helmet.
He had it was a flight. I think he had a flight helmet.
Yeah. So
when we first
like
see him,
that.
he doesn't have a helmet on the first time we see him.
Yeah. He should have a pith helmet.
Yeah, I think it's in a later helmet, a later episode. But she doesn't have a cool helmet. She has a very boring costume. She's very beautiful, attractive lady, but the way she's presented, it's not terribly interesting. But that comes down to when your prime motivation in casting is to have representation, when you're promoting your upcoming show, you want everybody to see that representation. And that's not just with Star Wars, that's with every movie and TV show we've seen the last few years, and all the promos, that's the number one thing. If they've got it, they show it, and that's fine. I'm glad that, I'm sorry, I don't know the actress's name. I'm glad she's cast. I'm glad she's here. I think that's good. More power to her. And I'm rooting for her. I want her to do well. I'm happy she's here. I don't have a problem with that. I'm just stating what it is. And I think that's one thing. I think the other Inquisitor, the green guy, the brother, there's been, in comparison to the Grand Inquisitor, there's much less complaint about him, but there is some that he doesn't look like the character in the show. And again, he's an Asian actor. I don't know his name, but in terms of representation, they want everybody to see that he's there, and you're not going to cover his face up with prosthetics and makeup to hide that fact, to make him look more like the animated character. And I think with whenever they're having representation, you're not going to want to cover people's faces up so you can't see the fact that we have representation in Star Wars. And I think when you have several Inquisitors and several characters that are going to be like that, well, then it leads to, okay, well, so far everybody's not made up in a big way so that we can see their faces. Then you get to the Grand Inquisitor. Well, maybe in terms of his negotiations, contracts and stuff, he doesn't want to be his face hidden so that you can't see him when everybody else can see their face. And we know from rumors that was a big problem with Pedro Pascal, allegedly, that he was upset that he was going through, one season, maybe 2 seasons without his face being seen. So he supposedly negotiated to get these episodes where we could see his face. In that context, I could see where this whatever his name, Mr. Friend, he and his agent, maybe they negotiated to get his face seen more, not to be covered up so much. And, maybe it's a case of that. So I think there's potentially this domino effect.
Okay.
That, yeah, there's a couple of layers to that onion. I see Steve salivating over this too. Do you want to go first, or you want me to jump in?
Here's the thing. If I'm running Lucasfilm and I'm in charge of casting and I'm giving people an opportunity to be a part of something where, there's going to be, there will be deals for licensing and that sort of thing, I'm sure. the minute someone says, well, I don't really want to be under a lot of makeup and stuff because I want people to be able to recognize my face. And I'm like, okay, well, you know what? There's someone else who will love this opportunity. We're just going to go with them.
Right.
Did Carrie Fisher get to say, I don't want to be a shampoo bottle where you twist my head off and pour shampoo out of my neck? No, she didn't, because they held the cards on that. They should hold the cards on the likenesses for these characters, because they should own this stuff. There's a couple of interesting points that Adam raises. One on the representation thing. The representation thing is interesting because during the show, the character Black Chrysanthemum showed up, which shocked me when I first saw him, because I went, holy cow, because he's a comic character.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been reading him and Darth Vader, and then over into I'm one of the 5 people that bought Dr. Aphra. No, I'm sorry, her sales are bad. I mean, people try to ignore that fact, but her sales are consistently terrible. But there are people who want to make her happen because of representation. And what I would say is create a better representative character that is more enjoyable, and you will actually get some sales with a representative character. But when Black Chrysanthemum came on, I saw a guy on Twitter go, it is great to have someone on screen. The Star Wars representation matters, and this is proof of it. It's great to have someone on screen who looks like me. And I'm like, you're not 7 feet tall and hairy.
The dude looks like a Wookiee.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
I gotta meet this guy.
Yeah.
The guy,
We need to have him on our show.
Yeah, the guy playing Black Chrysanthemum is black.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Oh,
So
I didn't know.
how does that even
Who
come across
cares?
as
Yeah,
representation?
Who cares? Yeah.
This is the
And, you
first
know,
time I'm hearing it.
Yeah,
I didn't
and
know.
you know, it's almost as if they would have had a scene where, you know, we've got to show the representation. So let's have a scene where there's a bizarre electrolysis accident, and Black Chrysanthemum loses all his hair, so that we can see
Well,
the
they
skin
did.
tone
Hey,
underneath.
listen, they put that poor Wookiee through the ringer there in
Yes,
that
they
last
did.
episode.
Yes, they
So
did.
it wouldn't surprise me if that would have
And
happened.
you know, honestly, as much as I'm not a fan of the Afro comic, I would like to see that character come back again, because I really liked the way they did him.
I
Yeah.
absolutely
I love
love the
Chrysanthemum.
look of that Wookiee. I
Yes.
thought
Yeah.
it looked
Oh, yeah,
amazing
he's
and
great.
imposing. Like, to me, that's one of the best things to come out of the Book of Boba Fett was that character.
Yeah,
It's a
and-
beautiful Wookiee. Now
Yeah.
the action figure upcoming is a completely
Yeah.
other story.
Oh my
Oh,
lord!
really?
Have
Just
you not seen it, Scott?
repaint
No.
Chewie. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, Black
No,
Chewie.
it's terrible. Let me find it.
Really?
Oh,
It's a repaint of Chewie that
It's a repaint.
yeah.
Because
and they
he's
put
got
like
a whole separate, distinct look. I mean, that's
Yeah.
and I will
They-
tell you,
they glue a new head on it.
yeah,
that's all.
yeah.
And
if
paint
you
it
have
black.
if you've not been reading the comics, he is 100% comic accurate.
Yeah.
Black Chrysanthemum on Book of
Yeah.
Boba Fett is the guy from the comics.
Yeah.
or
I
the
have
Wookiee
not-
from the comics.
I have not done any of the comics of Afra, but I did. I listened to the audiobook of
Ooh.
Dr. Afra.
Oh,
I
I just-
was
I
a little
can't-
taken back by the constant
The
her talking
cutesiness.
to herself about
Yes.
the scene. I was like, let's just go to the scene. I mean,
there's
yeah.
the quippiness that drives me nuts about that audio, and her quippiness at Darth Vader.
yeah,
And I'm just one of these guys. I'm a real Vader defender. Steve probably remembers this when I felt like they were treating Lucasfilm was treating Vader so poorly
Mhm.
that when they sold to Disney and everybody went, oh, Leia's the new Disney princess. And I went, no, Vader's the new Disney princess. Because, you know, at that point they were, you know, the Disney Christmas special, they'd have him riding the rides and getting stood up and, you know, not getting his treats and, you know, being left behind by people and being too tall for the ride. And, you know, then I go to the store,
Break
there's
dancing.
Valentine's treats. Yeah. The hyperspace hoopla. Honestly,
I hate it.
should have been a death penalty type of offense.
Yeah.
There should have been people killed over hyperspace hoopla. But you know, I'd go to the store and they'd have Valentine cards with little cartoon Vaders with broken hearts in their hands and all this stuff. And it drove me nuts. So I'm a defender of Vader and that. So it really drives me nuts when this little 5'2" lady can just spit crap out at him and he just takes it. And it's just like, no, Vader would have broken her neck off and found somebody who could do something with no lip.
And then everyone would complain that Vader acted like a villain. Joe, could you make it so that I may share my screen?
yes.
Are you able to
They
do
did
that?
do
'Cause
that, didn't he? He killed that woman in the Dark Visions.
And everybody
got
freaked
mad
out
at
about
him.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
Multiple
But Vader, the
participants.
cold-blooded killer,
Vader.
killed somebody in cold blood. How can that be?
All right, here we go, Scott. I want you to see this.
Oh no.
I think I've shared it here.
Let me see. You have.
Okay. Look at that. Look at that action figure.
That's weak. And
I mean, it looks like a bad custom.
Well,
it does.
The way they did his harness, it looks like something that Volton would wear on Flash Gordon, Brian Blessed's character.
Way too big for him. Way too big.
Well,
it looks like a bad. Forever? It looks like someone had a Road Warriors action figure from a WWF collection and painted it gold and just dipped Chewie in some black paint.
But the coloring of it's not really gold; it's more Happy Meal toy.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, I have Happy Meal toys that are that shade.
Those shoulder pads remind me of one of the villains on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Am I wrong?
Now, Scott, no, you're not wrong at all. It looks like something Bebop or Rocksteady would have. I don't know which one. Now, Scott or Shredder. Now, Scott, I'm not as familiar with the comic version, Scott, but they're saying that he's supposed to be representative of the comic version.
No, the guy on the screen in the Book of Boba Fett is representative of the comic version.
Right. Yep.
I mean,
agreed.
No, I mean, look, again, we were criticizing the show earlier, but there are a lot of things they got right. And Black Chrysanthemum's one of the things they got really right on that show.
Yeah. I didn't even like the comics, to be honest, or the characters in them, but I really liked him in the show. He was one of the highlights.
Yeah, he's good.
But I want to come back to Kenobi. I'm sorry. I didn't mean
to
wait. Wizard and everything.
I'm
sorry.
Wait.
Go ahead.
I had one more point on the thing.
Well, please, Scott, go right ahead. Scott Ryfun.
I was gonna dovetail with what Adam had said about the fact that most of these actors nowadays do make sure that they have FaceTime. I mean, that's a very big deal with these guys. And that is why in every superhero movie, none of them have their masks on by the end of it. It's not because some big harrowing thing has happened. It's because their agent has negotiated that they get FaceTime.
And that started with Spider-Man 2. Let's be honest about that.
That's why
Spider-Man 2, that was a reason.
Yeah.
That's why movie posters are just floating heads, because that's in the contract too.
And see that the thing is Scott, you mentioned it's the agents doing it. I know there's the rumors about Pedro Pascal out there, and I don't know how true they are or not. I don't have any means to know if they're true or not. It depends on who you talk to.
If I was Pedro Pascal, I'd be happy as a clam. You don't have to show up on set most days, and then you just show up for some looping, and you're done.
John Wayne's grandson stand there looking all cool in the suit. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
that's me.
But I'm telling you, dude, I'm sorry. If I'm Lucasfilm, here's the thing. I look at, I'm like, look, you don't have to have your face on screen, because Star Wars fans are going to know who you are when this is all said and done. This is the group of fans who, had to find out who all these guys that worked at ILM are. These are the fans who uncovered every single name, and and like people like the why is my mind going blank right now? But the special effects guys, they can come to conventions and have lines to see them and meet them. So you're telling me that someone can put on Grand Inquisitor makeup and not make some money at a convention?
No, and you say that. I've got a Raiders of the Lost Ark poster that is signed by Dennis Muren and Ben Burtt.
Thank you. Dennis Muren was the name I had.
These guys, that's not, but we know them. We love them.
Right.
That's one of my most treasured items, and it's in my storage unit, only under 13 different things.
And when you say those names, Scott, you know what? I can picture their faces.
Yeah.
I can picture their faces. And so I don't need, and I think that's the thing. Either the agents or the actors need to get through their head. But if I'm Lucasfilm,
this is Star Wars. Yeah.
I say, oh, this is going to be a problem with you. Well, you know what? I'm sure there's some struggling actors out there who are really good.
There's a line of people waiting for that role. You don't worry about it.
Yes,
Joe.
But overall, as
lost his own show.
Overall, I said,
I wanted.
Like the trailer. I do like. I would have loved to see more Ewan McGregor in the trailer, but hopefully we're going to get to see a ton of him in the show. And I'm wondering, I mean, all signs are pointing to we're going to get a Vader Obi-Wan showdown.
I hope not.
Yeah.
I hope not.
Kathleen said it, and Ewan's said it so far. I'm hoping it's some kind of flashback.
I'm hoping flashback, because to me, it cheapens episode 4. I'm sorry. To me, that should be the first time they have run into each other since everything fell apart. And it's the first time they get a chance to go back at each other and reopen those old wounds.
I would prefer that as well.
I agree. I 100% agree. I always thought in my picturing of Revenge of the Sith, is that the turn for Anakin and the battle with Obi-Wan might have been more of an Act 2 kind of thing rather than the Act 3.
Mm.
And so once Anakin's in the suit, he and Obi-Wan have one more showdown where he may let Obi-Wan kind of escape and get away. And so when he says to him on the Death Star, "You should not have come back," you know, there was an idea that he did kind of know that Obi-Wan may be out there, but he was just going to let him be as long as he didn't interfere with anything, you know, kind of deal.
But there was kind of a thing of that when he's, you know, he is here,
right?
You know, Obi-Wan Kenobi, surely he must be dead. I know, don't question the Force, you know. So
I'm just saying, like, I don't think that. What are we, 15 years out at this point from A New Hope?
I guess, yeah.
Is
Kenobi we can't be 15. Yeah, it can't be 15 because Luke's still a kid.
Yeah,
right.
I think it's halfway point. Yeah,
right. But I mean, Luke's what, 19, 20?
Yeah,
I think but he's not even
10 years.
Maybe
after
maybe 10 in this. Yeah.
Okay, so when we're 10 years out from A New Hope, okay. See, to me, that's too close to A New Hope to have that showdown again.
I think that it should be, you know, they had their thing. Maybe there's a quick follow-up, Steve. I'm good with that. But to me, there's got to be more time. And that wound has to stay open for a really long time. And then they run into each other again. And it's tough. You know what worries me? If they do a showdown, you know what worries me?
It's going to outdo the Obi-Wan Vader showdown from Star Wars.
Not just that, but they will take. You've seen on the internet and in the interwebs where they've redone the Episode 4 showdown and make it all cool and Jedi and you know prequely. It worries me that they'll try to do this battle like that.
Well, sure they will.
And then you get the Episode 4 battle, which again kind of cheapens that.
If they do what Steve said and do something a year after Revenge of the Sith and he's on a mission or something and they want to go that way, they just finished that. So a year later they should be able to do that, but not 10 years in. Not 10 years in.
Is there an epilogue to Revenge of the Sith, the novelization where Obi-Wan's in a cantina on Tatooine and like the holofeed comes across and
he sees Bruce and Selena across the cafe, but he doesn't speak to them.
And he just kind of nods. No, but like he's there and the holofeed comes across and he sees the image of Vader and someone actually on the holofeed uses the name Darth Vader, and Obi-Wan realizes that Anakin didn't die, that that he's out there. And it's like a little epilogue moment in the novelization, I think.
I'll look at it.
It to me, if you can open up there at that point, and then he's like, well, I've got to go finish this job somehow, you know, and then flash forward 10 years. Yes. You know, because they love doing their flashbacks in these shows, guys.
They do.
Yeah,
yes,
they do now.
Yeah.
So across the board, I would say we're all looking for this in a positive way, right? This is one of the ones that ranks up there. I'm saying Kenobi is one that we're actually like, give it to me. I'm ready to see this with Ewan McGregor now.
I'm ready to see Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yes.
And if but look, you know, clearly I go in with some preconceived notion, which I usually don't, but you know, if they find a way to tell a story that defies that, but makes me, but fits with me, that's great.
You mean if they subvert your expectations?
As long as it's not for the sake of subverting the expectations, yes. But if they find a way to tell a story that is different and still makes sense and can make me believe it, then yeah.
I hear that Obi-Wan goes into a cave and finds a mirror and just sees multiple reflections.
Wow.
Yeah. Does he snap though?
Heard
he does. No, he does a little salsa.
Which is weird because he doesn't like Mexican food.
What you don't understand is that he's got light castanets.
Oh,
that's right.
We are going to take 1 second break because I forgot to mention this to people. So before we go on to the next topics or continue this one, reminder to everybody, go to Etsy, type in Rule the Galaxy, all caps, one word, no separation, Rule the Galaxy, all caps. Go look at our hats, our shirts, our sweatshirts, everything like that.
What?
We are, all one word, Rule the Galaxy, all capital letters. go buy some, go have fun. Laura Burton is taking care of us. She is putting these together and selling these for us. And you know what? It ain't about the money, folks. It's all about the love for Star Wars. Go check that out. So that, and then you guys were talking about characters and getting assigned something by Dennis Muir. And, we're so excited here at Rule of the Galaxy because we're going to the ICCC April 29th through May 1st in Nashville. Ian McDermott, Anthony Daniels, Matt Lanter, Jat is going to be there. James Arnold Taylor, Ashley Eckstein, Timothy Zahn, all going to be at this event. If you get a chance, go check it out because it's going to be awesome. We're actually going to do a live podcast from there, so it's going to be fun. But those are just two things that I want to remind everybody because we're really excited about it. And you know what? We're going to be wearing our new Rule of the Galaxy gear at the event, all that kind of stuff. Scott's laughing at me, so that I must have done something.
No. I've gone to the Etsy shop and it did had some other suggestions that were suggestive.
Oh no, I don't want any other suggestive things. Just
all
type
I did
in
was Rule the Galaxy, and I'm looking at the hat right now.
Yeah. I don't want to know what's next, Scott.
Yeah, you don't want to know.
If it doesn't look like this logo right here, you're at the wrong place.
No, I'm in the right place. It's at the bottom. It's got, hey, look at this. And it's whoa, what is that?
Hey, I don't run.
I got to be straight with you. All I'm seeing is a bunch of girls. Oh, there's some, personalized boxers.
Nope,
there's
not
that.
mine.
Yes.
All right.
That's not us.
She's got her face right on the crotch of the boxers.
Hey, I can't handle what's on the
CDs.
advertisements. Yeah.
Back to CDs.
I see these. A couple different things. And what I want to do is I want to pull out some random pages from Adam Bray books here. We'll do that in a minute. I'll throw out some crazy topics here. You guys, Scott Ryfun, you were just at Disney, correct?
Yes, I was.
You got to go to Galaxy's Edge. How was that?
It was marvelous as usual. I just, there was criticism of a lot of Galaxy's Edge, but honestly, I just like being there. I like being in the vibe. I like going around to the places. I like the fact that they created a place that's totally in universe. It is a little disappointing that because when you read about it, how you can have a mission and you can do things and you can interact with the cast member. And to that end, I bought Cole Horton's book to just kind of help myself navigate through there. And it's a great book. I recommend it. But yeah, a lot of the stuff that they talked about that you used to be able to do, it's now behind a paywall, a $5,000 paywall.
Yeah, we're kind of just
behind it.
But a partially empty $5,000 pay.
Yeah. Well, the thing was in 2020, we went down there right when they reopened after the pandemic. And one of the things I told we stayed for 11 days at Disney World, and it did not cost $5,000 to do that. And one of the things I told my wife was I would like to take a day where we just go and spend the entire day at Galaxy's Edge and see if we can't explore and learn things and talk to the cast, and maybe we can have one of these adventures they're talking about, because I didn't know they had just were not doing the adventures. And so we went there around the time the park opened, which I think that day was about 8 a.m. And by 2, I was kind of like, yeah, I'm done. Yeah, I've done it all. So I like it a lot, and I like hanging out there. I will say I can't spend 12 hours there, but it's a lot of. I really enjoy the place. I really do.
Good. I enjoyed it when I went as well. It was fun. Yeah. Rise
of the Resistance is quite possibly the greatest Disney attraction ever made. So
you were held hostage there for a little while.
Yes, we were held hostage by the First Order.
Hey, going on to my next bullet point here. Can you believe it's been 20 years since the Attack of the Clones?
No.
I saw the merchandise today on the Celebration page.
Adam,
it has been 20 years.
It's been 20 years. Adam, when you think about Attack of the Clones, what stands out to you about Attack of the Clones?
I remember, in tonight's episode, the role of Killjoy is going to be played by author Adam Bray. I remember it being the first Star Wars movie that I was bored in. And that the end looked like a bad cutscene in a video game, and that I I had the whole battle sequence at the end, and that I remember having spent the last few years defending the Phantom Menace, and now I started to have second thoughts about that because of the movie. Now, that being said, over the 2 decades, I have gained an appreciation for the things in it that are good. You know, it's got it has a great soundtrack. You know, there's
Across the Stars is great. Yeah.
That song, that theme is incredible. It's one of the best in Star Wars. The movie has incredible world building, and aliens and cultures. That's probably, that and the music are probably the best 2 things. And the costumes. You know, I can complain about a lot of things in that trilogy, but I can't complain about the costumes, which are all almost completely culturally appropriated. I have an appreciation. I think Hayden Christensen is great. The acting is really wooden in that movie, but I'm excited about him coming back. I think he's a wonderful person, and I'm glad he's in Star Wars. But I also think the acting was wooden on, you know, on Ewan and Padme there. So there you go. But I'm excited that Ewan's coming back. So, you know, there were things I didn't like, but I've grown to appreciate what's good. So there it is.
Okay. Steve?
Wow.
Did you go to, is this the celebration you went to?
No, we went.
This is that's Revenge of the Sith. Okay.
Yeah, Celebration 3 was my first.
Both were in Joe's backyard.
Yeah, we're up in Indianapolis. You know, we drove down to Jacksonville from up in Baxley, Georgia with my kids, my youth group at the time, to go see this movie. And was it opening day? It had to have been opening afternoon, because the theater was relatively full, but it wouldn't have been like a midnight showing. It was during the daytime. And I just remember sitting there. I enjoyed it. Like I loved getting to know Coruscant better, the nightlife of Coruscant. I thought that, you know, that one scene, particularly the chase scene, like you could really, like, I was thinking, wow, this is really George Lucas's love of you know, hot rods and stuff coming out here, and getting to see them do some Jedi type stuff was really neat, and see Anakin do some crazy silly stuff. And you know, I was like, I really wish we would have gotten to see more piloting out of him, you know, in the movie. But that's neither here nor there. The stuff on Tatooine, I had gotten a bootleg copy of the soundtrack early. I went into this thing completely spoiled. I took advantage of every website, every spoiler, novelization. That's how I wanted to do this movie. And so we had the soundtrack. I had the soundtrack early somehow. And because this was in the day when if something like that leaked, you just had to know the right places and be on the right message boards, you know, to get it. And there's a piece of music when he's on Tatooine, and he's going to find it's that moment when he gets on the bike to go find Shmi.
Yeah.
And like at that point, they slide some Duel of the Fates in.
And I just thought that was so stinking cool. Like I just remember hearing that and thinking, oh, this is so great. And you listen for other things in the soundtrack at the time, and you know, to hear what was coming. And then when the actual CD came out, there were 4 different covers, and you chose which one you wanted. And look, here's the thing.
Or you got them all.
Right. Or you got them all, which I didn't do. I'm sure Scott did.
I did.
I got the Yoda one. Here's the thing. When Anakin and Obi-Wan are down, and all of a sudden you hear the click of a cane, our movie theater that we were in went nuts.
Yeah.
Like we could not hear for the next couple of lines because everyone just kind of cheered. They didn't go nuts. They just cheered, you know, like, woo. Well, here comes that. And they had their little talk, and Yoda blocks the rocks, you know, and then he shoots the lightning, and Yoda catches the lightning. And when Dooku says, it's obvious this will not be used by our force, our skills as a lightsaber. And he whips out, and Yoda just pulls his robe back and force pulls that lightsaber into his hand. that's when our theater went nuts, and you could not hear the effects. You couldn't hear anything until that fight was over. Like people just went nuts. And to me,
and
I'm
even
like,
then, it took a while to die down.
Like I would have paid the price of admission at that point just to go see that fight again. Even though it was like all of 30 seconds.
Yeah.
But like, I remember like in all the press and stuff leading up to it, you know, George Lucas was he's like, this is what has to work. If this doesn't work, the whole movie falls apart. And I'm like, well, he did it. They did it. It worked, you know. To the wooden acting, you know, Adam, I don't disagree with that at all. But what really is interesting to me is when you get into episode 3 with Hayden, he doesn't have the timbre of James Earl Jones' voice, but he really goes a long way to get the cadence of how Vader speaks. You know, short, kind of trailing off a little bit, you know, but in almost it is wooden, you know, like it makes sense that this person, when he's in this suit, is going to sound mechanical because he already did kind of sound mechanical. And that comes from, you know, I don't know. There's a lot of things I could do to defend Hayden's acting in episode 2. Because I feel like he was hamstrung by bad writing. The love story just doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And so I think he was hamstrung there, as was Natalie Portman, because we know she's a pretty good actor. So, So Scott,
am I real quick? Am I hearing? Did I hear correctly? They didn't really get along. Is that the case?
That is,
did those two?
Not only did they not really get along that well, from what I've read, they also, you know, they tried to plant the story in the media, because I think that was the Titanic thing, was that there's a real relationship there, and you can see the real relationship budding on screen, and you know. Yeah,
well, and those online featurettes they were doing on StarWars.com leading up to it, they talked about how they were just getting along on set real good, and they showed scenes of them like running around laughing on the set together and that sort of thing, you know.
Acting.
Acting.
I'm an actor.
Yeah. So there's the real deal.
Master thespian.
But Scott, I think that probably came more from episode 3 than episode 2, though, didn't it? Because I think Natalie Portman was really frustrated with Star Wars by the time she got to episode 3.
Right.
Yeah.
I bet you she'll come back now for the money. What do you think?
Yeah. And I don't want people to think that I hate episode 2 or anything. No, I'm just laying it all out there. I'm giving you my reaction when I first saw it. I'm
trying to sink Joe's podcast with more negativity.
But I've grown to love what some of the things that Steve is talking about. I've grown to appreciate those things over 20 years.
And Slave One chase, the Slave One Obi-Wan chase.
Slave One,
awesome.
that's probably the best scene in the movie.
With seismic charges. Right. I mean,
but
Scott, you and I went into Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones and a different kind of set in these two, because we were taking our young kids, right?
Well, my story's a little different. I have a friend here who got in trouble.
You don't have a friend.
I do. I have a lot of friends. I have a friend who got in trouble.
He's my friend. You sound like Doc Hopper. I got a lot of friends. Max is my friend.
Oh, all I can see are thousands of frogs on tiny crutches.
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 That's a movie reference, everybody.
Yes, it is. This is a friend who was disciplined by the government for downloading and distributing a Lord of the Rings film. So
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, well, listen, it got a lot gentler than when you started.
Yes,
I got really worried.
We'll just go ahead and keep that person's name out. Continue.
And I knew he had access to things. And so I was going to call him the Saturday before the movie came out. And he calls me and says, hey, I'm in queue, because, you know, you couldn't just go and get it. You had to get in line for it in whatever room he was in. And he's like, I'm in queue for this. You know what I'm getting. And if you want it, when I get it, if I get it, I'll let you know. And so I waited all day Saturday. This is Saturday before the Wednesday release. I waited all day Saturday. And then about 5 o'clock in the morning, he calls me. and says, I got it. I burned it to a disc for you. Come get it. And I think it was 2 discs because I think it was VCD format or something. But I just remember going over to his house at 5 o'clock in the morning and him just kind of leaving it outside for me. And I took it back home. And so 6 o'clock Sunday morning, I watched a cam of Attack of the Clones before it came out. So, but I will tell you the same thing of, you know, the Yoda moment when he gets into the saber fight with Dooku, I'm screaming. You know, there are 2 times in my life where I sat by myself in the living room of my home and watched a movie alone and accidentally woke up the entire family. One was Borat when he got into the naked fight, and the other was when Yoda went nuts on Count Dooku in Attack of the Clones. There is an issue with the love story. And look, I love George Lucas Star Wars, and I don't slag that movie. I love that movie. I love that movie. There's a lot to love. But there's also a really easy fix for that love story. And that is, since it is the Empire Strikes Back of that trilogy, you have, and we know that assassins are trying to kill Padme, you have them chasing them, and you have them fleeing the chase. And that rush of adrenaline, that excitement, that first off perks up the movie a little. Secondly, it makes you more forgiving of the fact that they're just suddenly falling for each other, because that's how it happens in the movies.
And you can get a little bit of like back and forth, you know, that would you care if I got out and pushed kind of thing.
Yes. And you can get that. You can have, again, there are assassins after. We know this. We established it. There's a huge chase at the beginning of it. And so I think the easy fix for that movie is you have them continually chased until they make their way, till they're captured and taken to Geonosis. And I don't think that's that tough. Or you know, during the chase, maybe he goes and, you know, they take a break from the chase. There's always a break from the chase. They're going into the belly of the beast and Empire Strikes Back, you know, where they're sitting inside the space slug. And in this one, it would be the diversion to Tatooine. Hey, you know what? We can hide out on Tatooine. It's in the middle of nowhere. Nobody will come after us on Tatooine.
And also, I've been having these bad dreams about my mother. And I need to go check on her anyway. This is a perfect hiding spot.
Yes, exactly. It'll all tie in. We'll go there. And to me, that's the easy fix for that movie. I did see a meme the other day where Padme's going, you know, this young boy is trying to hit on me, and I don't want to do anything at all to encourage him. So let me go to dinner dressed in this S&M outfit.
Real quick, that wasn't on Etsy, was it? The Padme outfit was not on Etsy.
Yeah, it's got the Rule the Galaxy logo across,
across the front of the boxers.
Right across the corset, yeah.
Oh gosh. Well, I like you guys. It was a movie that you watched and said, okay, that was a little different than what I was expecting, but it had a lot of things in it I liked.
But George told you it was going to be different at the beginning, because the crawl comes up and then the camera tilts up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Doesn't tilt down, tilts up. You got 4 movies of tilt down, then all of a sudden we go up.
But that 20 years, like Adam mentioned, does alleviate a lot of the pain, and it makes it where it's like, okay, this is part of that nostalgia that I still feel.
Well, I think the entire sequel trilogy has aged very well. Especially with the addition.
Which trilogy?
Prequel.
The prequel trilogy. I'm sorry. Did I say sequel trilogy? The prequel trilogy has aged very well.
I agree.
Especially with the addition of like the Clone Wars and everything to kind of supplement what happens in between those 2 movies. But people said at the time it would not. Because of the digital effects. But I totally agree with you on that. And I'm interested to see how well, because it's now been 7 years. This year will be 7 years since The Force Awakens. And so I'm interested to see, you know, because I remember people started talking about how well the Phantom Menace had aged at 10 years. At 10 years on, they were like, wow, this is really kind of holding up better than we thought it would. And so I'm really interested when we hit about that decade mark away in a few years, Lord willing, to see how well the sequel trilogy begins to hold up, because I'm the old fogey. I don't think it will hold up as well. I just don't. I don't, you know, I think that there was the thing that works. One of the things that make both of the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy work in the long run is the singular vision of George Lucas. That's one of those things. and that is missing from the sequel trilogy. Not that it's Lucas is not that it's not Lucas's vision, but it's not a singular vision.
And that does not mean that we believe Lucas had every story beat planned out in advance in the trilogy. Clearly he did not, but it all came from the same mind.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, that's a huge difference to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you see that. This reminds me of Steve. You're an old comics guy.
Yeah.
DC Challenge. Do you remember this?
Mm-mm.
DC Challenge was a 12-issue miniseries, and each issue had a separate writer and artist team. And the first issue set up the mystery, and then it ended in a cliffhanger. And then the second issue, without communicating with the first issue's team, the second creative team had to resolve the cliffhanger, advance the story, and then create another cliffhanger to leave behind for the other team. And then by issue 12, all the teams got together and solved the plot as one. But the sequel trilogy reminds me of DC Challenge, where this group of guys set up something, they left a cliffhanger, and then the next guys came in and didn't really do what was set up there.
But here's the thing: in a 12-issue miniseries in a comic book back in the day, you can do that as a fun stunt to sell a few extra books and to tell people about the creative teams that are working, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. When you're dealing with a multi-million-dollar film and with a billion-dollar, franchise, you can't do that.
No, and my point is it should not have come off as DC Challenge.
Right.
Because DC Challenge was kind of a lark.
Yeah.
And no Star Wars episodic film should come off as a lark.
No.
I think it's kind of important when your successive directors like what the one before him did.
Yeah. I think it's good if they communicate a little bit.
It's
That's a good trick.
I'm gonna take us in a slightly different direction. One, I'm gonna show, because we have the author Adam Bray here, and this is his Star Wars Rebels, the visual guide. So we've got that. But because we've been going Star Wars all night, and I wanted to spice it up a little bit and do something different, I'm going to pull out the Marvel Encyclopedia by Adam Bray.
Ooh.
And Adam, first of all, you signed it and put a nice little drawing there, Captain America's shield for me, because I'm a big Cap fan.
Right.
From page 10 through page 410, I would like you to pick a page. We're going to open it up anywhere between number 10 and number 410. Pick a page. We're going to open up, and we're going to have a final discussion of the evening, not on Star Wars, but on something you did right here.
Joe, don't move your head.
Right.
Yes. Why?
Because your ring light makes you look like you have giant Muppet eyes in your glasses now.
It looks like Gritty. Yeah.
Maybe Scooter.
Oh,
hey, did you hear they're going to do an Electric Mayhem show on Disney Plus?
Yeah. And if they don't get Janice right, I'm walking.
There you go. Agreed. 100% agreed.
Adam, the fate is in your hands. You pick a number. I don't care what number it is. And I guarantee you, these two guys here are going to know, even though you wrote about it, these guys are going to know somebody on one of these pages.
All right. I want page 256.
Wow. Okay. 256. For our listening audience, you should be a viewing member because you could see me flipping through the pages here.
Is that 16 squared?
Adam, while he's flipping, like you went to you mentioned cultural appropriation being a real key for some of these things. Wouldn't it be more like inspired by these cultures and not appropriating cultures?
Well, that's all in your philosophy. See, I don't think there's anything wrong with cultural appropriation.
No, that's what a melting pot is.
The culture, by definition, is the borrowing and assimilating of another person's ideas. One person can't have a culture. A culture has to have at least two people borrowing and incorporating the ideas of one to the other. I got into this whole philosophy of culture because of working with chimpanzees. They wanted to know if certain wild animals have cultures of their own, because
the chimpanzees did.
Yeah.
They asked you that.
Well, because chimpanzees have different behaviors, and one group will do something and another group will do something completely different, like hunting for food. Like one group will use like sticks to fish for termites and termite mounds. but another group won't. But someone from this group might observe the other group doing it, and then he'll go home and do it, and all his chimps in the group will observe, and then they'll all pick it up. But other animals do this kind of thing too. But so
it's cultural, but not instinctive. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's completely, it's a culture.
Yeah.
But so
and
anyway.
Joseph,
Yes.
you've just been canceled.
Oh no! Come on. This is educational.
Yeah.
But I like when Star Wars steals. I like when it culture. I mean, when Boba Fett called himself the daimyo, that's Japanese. I loved that. And when and a lot of that comes from when Mando started up. I went back and read, because I said this looks like Lone Wolf and Cub from what I remember of it, and I went back and started reading Lone Wolf and Cub, which is wonderful.
Behold, the podcast host seated in his chair, wanting to somehow take back the conversation and unable to.
I'm letting you finish. I'm waiting for that awkward pause, but it never happens.
But the Luke choice scene is straight out of Lone Wolf and Cub.
Right.
Now, and I love that.
Cultural appropriation can cross the line and become bad, but that's when you're taking something.
It's when they made the movie Soul Man with C. Thomas Howell. That was bad cultural appropriation.
The radio host shows his knowledge.
Fun of. Now that's bad. Or you're taking the resources of a minority group and exploiting
it for your own,
exploiting it for yourself in a way that prevents them from using that resource for themselves.
But paying tribute to it,
that's not inspiration. No, it's not bad. But
this is going to be the most listened to show ever. There's people are going to be going, are we on CNBC? What is
The pretentious fat guest rubbed his hands together in glee, knowing he has caused his friend many problems.
Okay.
When you said fat guest, I started going like, wait, I didn't know if you were talking about me or not.
No, I'm the only fat one here tonight.
On page 256 and 257, when I open it up there, we have the New Warriors, Nighthawk, and Nightcrawler.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
The floor is open to you, gentlemen. Of obviously, Adam, you wrote this, so you have some background on these. Whether you'd like to talk about the New Warriors, Nighthawk, or Nightcrawler, or do any of them not stand out to you at all?
Oh, listen. Okay, look. Let me just say, I understand. Like, for most people, I'm just going to say most people would be like, "Oh, the incredible Nightcrawler." They would want to talk about Nightcrawler all day long because he's like one of those that people who love the X-Men, he's one of their favorites. Then there'd be people who like, they want to show off. They'd be like, oh yeah, Nighthawk's a pretty cool character. He's kind of a rip-off of Batman and the Blue Falcon. If you me, I'm like,
is Nighthawk not a Squadron Supreme guy?
Is he? I don't think so.
First appearance,
is he not?
Avengers 71, December 1971.
Okay,
former
I may
president
be wrong on
of
that.
Richmond Enterprises, based in New York City.
Yeah,
Long Island?
he's kind of like a right. He's kind of like a Batman.
No, he's a Squadron Supreme guy.
Is he?
Recruited into Squadron
because he's the
Sinister.
Batman guy in Squadron Supreme.
Okay, I knew he was like a Batman guy. But right.
Do you remember when they did the Squadron Supreme series and they promoted it by just showing their silhouettes?
Yes.
And it looked like Justice League.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that was, but
what? He
Justice
is like,
League.
He's meant to be like the Batman of it all, but he also has kind of a Blue Falcon. If you guys remember him from the Hanna-Barbera cartoons.
Dog Wonder.
But buddy, I can't help but go to New Warriors because New Warriors is in my 90s Marvel kid wheelhouse. New Warriors first appeared in the pages of the mighty Thor as he was battling Juggernaut during the Acts of Vengeance situation that was going on at the time. And they consisted of Night Thrasher, who is, again, kind of a Batman ripoff. He's a rich kid who wants to get vengeance on criminals everywhere and everything. And he's got like all this street armor that he wears. He rides around on a skateboard. Nova's up in that mess. Namor's cousin, Namorita, is in there to start out with. Marvel Boy, Vance Astro, is a part of the team. And then one of my unsung heroes of Marvel legendom, this guy named Speedball.
And
And Speedball
New action
is
figure.
such a dumb character, man, but he's awesome because Speedball's ability is he bounces. He stores up kinetic energy and he bounces. Like there's a great scene in the first issue of the New Warriors where he's gotten to get to New York. He's got to get to the city from out in the suburbs. And so he runs and jumps in front of a train and it launches him in just the right direction all the way into the city. It is just fantastic. It's absolute madness, but yeah, so I was on board with the New Warriors for about the first 8 or 9 issues back when that kind of stuff was going on.
That was during one of my lulls, but that was a Tom DeFalco Ron Friends thing, if I remember right.
I think you're right, Scott. Yeah.
See, I would springboard that over to Spider Girl because they did that together as well. And that's one of my all-time favorites ever. Spider Girl, because it is literally the logical extension of 90s Spider-Man. Which is fantastic. But that's where I'm going to sit back and let Steve talk.
No, sorry.
We're good.
But at the same time in the New Warriors, they had Vance Astro, Marvel, aka I think he was calling himself Marvel Boy at the time. But he was also, his future self was in the Guardians of the Galaxy. Along the first Guardians of the Galaxy. That consisted of those those humans that had been raised on really other planets, and that was in the future that had been ruled by the Badoon, and they would come back every now and again into the past and do their thing. But we can talk Nightcrawler if you want to, Scott.
Oh
no, I'm not. I'm good with all this.
I know none.
The thing is
3 topics right here. So this is a great education.
Well, and the thing for Nightcrawler to me is just that, as you say, it's the thing anybody would jump in and talk about. So I feel like we should probably go for the more esoteric thing.
I would just Firestar. Firestar was in the New Warriors too. Firestar of Spider-Man and his amazing friends. Yeah.
Yes, and Firestar, one of those rare Harley Quinn type characters who was introduced on the animated series before she was a comic.
She was Harley Quinn before Harley Quinn was Harley Quinn.
That's right.
Yeah.
So do you have that action figure, Steve?
I do. It's way up there right now.
I really wanted her, but I didn't put the money down.
That's back when Iceman was straight.
Because he and Peter kept fighting over in the they didn't fight over, but there was this tension.
Yes.
That is my childhood memory of Spider-Man, is that cartoon. So that's why, because I've got
a solid memory.
Spider-Man. Yeah.
I love that's on Disney Plus.
I would say this. If you don't have this book, and I'm a very distant comic fan. Like I only read a few comics, so there were ones I stuck with. But you guys go into this, and I knew if I opened up a page, that you'd be able to talk about them, because
that is what I like to call a bathroom book, where you can literally, you're going to sit down in the bathroom for a while. You can open it up anywhere, join it in place at any time, and then when it's time to close it, you can close it, knowing that you'll get to come back and find some completely different goodness. Give us another number. Give us another number.
All right. You mean just open randomly?
No, let Adam pick the number.
Pick a number, Adam.
Why are these numbers just coming to me and I don't know what they mean? It's 377.
That's a prime number.
Is it?
I'm pretty sure. 256 was 16 squared, by the way. I was
377. Guess who we're on right here?
Yeah.
The mighty Thor.
Well, of course.
The mighty Thor. And his first appearance,
Journey into Mystery,
1962, August 1962.
Kirby and Lee.
I've got the famous cover action figure of Thor in Journey into Mystery right over here on my floor. Hold on, the 8-inch.
Nice.
I've been really excited about that movie, but I'm starting to get scared about the next one.
Love and Thunder.
Yeah. I'm starting to get a little apprehensive.
I remember that one. I remember that one being on the shelves. Sure enough.
Yep.
I remember doing
nice.
I did a read through of the Simonson Thor last year.
Man,
maybe year before, because I had bought them at the time and didn't really read them, didn't really pay attention to them, and I really am sad now because I really missed out. Although one of the interesting things, I did it all on Marvel Unlimited, even though I had the issues because they're in storage, and they recolored a lot of them. And at first I was a little annoyed because they were recolored, and I was going, this is modern coloring. I was looking for the old look and the original. And then I got past some of the recolored issues where it looked like the original coloring, and I went, wow, that new coloring really helps this out a lot. So I wish we could go back to the new coloring. What a great run.
I feel like I had a big chunk of that run. I'm missing some comics. I have lost some comics in my move.
They're in Scott's storage area.
Because they must have gotten sucked into that.
Yeah. They're under my Star Destroyer.
One of my favorite comics I have is a Thor comic, Thor 385, and it's a side story, and it's him versus the Hulk. The cover is just a white background with Thor and the Hulk kind of duking it out, and the whole thing goes through like it's when Thor was, I think it's from the time when Thor was Donald Blake, or he might have been Eric Masterson. I don't know, but the whole idea at one point, Hulk taunts him. He's like, "You're nothing without hammer," because this is Green Hulk, He's like, "Hulk smash you," and so Thor's like, "Fine, I'll throw the hammer away," and he chunks the hammer away, and like he and Hulk go at it, and then the hammer comes back in time, because if he's parted from it for 60 seconds or more, he turns back to his human form, but he gets it back just in time, and Hulk kind of like, "Oh, you're going to cheat, so I'm going to leave." So Hulk just leaves in disgust. And then Thor looks around and sees all the people, and he's like, "I'm just as much a monster as he is. I let the lust of battle overtake me. I can't do this anymore." And it's just a great, just slug it out battle with those two. I always love that kind of stuff in the comics days. Thor was one of my favorites, and still is in a lot of ways. I really do enjoy reading the old stuff that Stan Lee was doing in Journey into Mystery and following. But the Walt Simonson run, if anyone wants to look at some good Thor, get on the Marvel Unlimited app and go for the Walt Simonson run. It's worth your time.
You will see a lot of different things that they appropriated, not culturally, for the films.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
A lot of Walt Simonson's run wound up in the movies. You still have what's his name, Dr. McCoy. Who's he play in the movies?
He plays the Executioner.
Yeah, well, you see him running around with a modern weapon in Asgard, and that's straight out of, part of the Ragnarok storyline of Walt Simonson is they smuggled a ton of modern Earth weapons into Valhalla to fight off the attack in Ragnarok, and it's there's a lot of that stuff from Simonson's run that is there, and there's a lot of stuff that's not there yet that is great, like the whole Beta Ray Bill saga. So I'm excited for Hulk if they continue to mine those comics. I do worry, I think, like a lot of people, it becoming too jokey, because I like them to be fun, but I don't want Thor to be necessarily just one giant joke. I think there's a time and a place for that. I think him with the Guardians is great, and he's hilarious.
Yeah.
But there are times when Thor needs to just be mighty.
Well, and that's kind of that, that's one of my things about Thor Ragnarok was, as much as I enjoyed it, and I love the characterization of the Hulk, like it's the best Hulk we've ever had on screen. He's doing the Hulk smash kind of, stilted talk bit that Hulk did and everything. But but there was so much humor and so much comedy in it that it's like it really took away the weightiness of what Ragnarok is supposed to be for Asgard. And so, and I still laugh at the bits, like when they're on the ship and they're looking back at Asgard, and Korg is like, "If the foundations are strong, we can rebuild it." And then all of a sudden it blows up. He's like, "I guess not."
Well, and then we all love Jeff Goldblum playing
Jeff
Goldblum, but only in space.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys, I don't mean to cut it short, but I could keep you guys here all night and talk about comics.
Listen, man, you just started an episode of Geek Out Loud.
Yeah,
well, that's what I did.
I'm the guy that's got to get up early.
That's what I'm saying. I know, Scott, we started early.
I'm in the moment. Let's do it.
What?
I have nowhere to go.
Well, we took your keys. So I'm going to hit you guys each closing thoughts on Star Wars, Marvel, Book of Boba Fett, Kenobi, anything we've talked about tonight. You just want to say, here's some last thoughts that I have on this before we shut it down tonight. Adam, you started this off, and you got us canceled, but you might as well bring us back here. Resurrect us.
Oh, I could get you canceled even further if you want. I mean, I've just started. There's more material.
As Cara Dune stands over his shoulder, we're all reminded just what an evil person she is.
You know it's going to be trouble when I've got canceled Cara Dune over my shoulder. No, I hope it's good. I think Deborah Chow, to say positive things, Deborah Chow more than proved herself on The Mandalorian. So I believe she is a very talented, entirely qualified director to take this on. And I believe that as long as she is allowed to do what she wants to do, and that she and Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are able to keep their brain trust intact, as long as they're able to do that, they're going to always do wonderful things. It's just a matter of, do the executives, allow them to keep that ball and go with it where they want to. Hopefully they do.
Agreed. Hey, real quick before I hand over to Scott Ryfun, they re-released some more Star Wars Celebration tickets, and looks like they're selling pretty well again. I wish I could go this year, but cannot make that trip. So nope. I forgot to talk about that earlier. But Scott, thank you. Adam, thank you for being on. Scott, thank you for being on. Go ahead. Yes. Hit me with some closing thoughts.
My closing thought is, don't be surprised if when Obi-Wan, the show, debuts, they have digitally tweaked the Grand Inquisitor's head to smush it and make it a little taller, because they have in the past responded to fan comments like that and made changes. And that would be an easy tweak for them to make, and it would make sense.
Yeah, they need to.
I could go for that. I think a lot of people could go for that. And there were plenty of people saying stuff on Twitter about it, so I'm sure they're listening a little bit to that, because that was the main big complaint that we did here. So
fans have done a great job giving samples of that already too, and it looks immensely better. Immensely.
And there's no reason ILM can't do that.
Right.
Correct. Mr. Glosson, my shade wearing friend, what about you? What say you to close up the shop?
In a lot of ways, Vance Astro was the original Kamala Khan in Marvel, because he was kind of a fanboy. He was a mutant, and he really wanted to be an Avenger, and he tried out and didn't make it, and that's why he ended up with the New Warriors. But he was kind of that, and so here's the thing. I think Miss Marvel is a character that has a lot of fun potential, if the focus of her was that she's a fangirl who loves the Avengers and gets really excited about it. I don't know why she has a Captain Marvel costume, because did anyone on Earth know who Captain Marvel was in the MCU ever? Maybe in that 5 years between the snap and the return, I don't know. But anyhow, that has nothing to do with Star Wars, I guess.
But the other thing is, and my issue with that show is just that, we've been told for the last several years that to pronounce the name Kamala in that way is racist. And now we're being told we have to pronounce it that way.
Yeah. It just depends on where you're from. Just depends on where you're from. Anyhow, Star Wars is good.
The cage match.
You asked for this, by the way. Don't forget, you asked for this. Oh, also, by the way, you could spend $200 on a beat up vintage Death Star playset. Better playset than the Book of Boba Fett throne room playset that Hasbro's trying to push on people.
And I saw the Navarro Cantina is now selling for $50 some odd, and it's just a little piece of plastic with a cardboard back.
Oh, it's the same thing they did with the Jabba's palace back in the day, just a wall. And the Rebels in the Tantive 4, they called it a playset. No, this is a wall.
All right. We've reached the wall. We've reached the wall. I can't tell you how much I appreciate these three guys, because anytime I ask them, hey, come on. Anytime I ask them, just interact with me about Star Wars, They don't know who I am. I could be some crazy guy who burns CDs of Star Wars movies before they're legally put out at theaters, but they still come on and talk to me, and I appreciate that more than you guys know. So Adam, Scott, Steve, thank you guys for coming.
Blue Snaggletooth sits in his cage, staying minty fresh for the collector who will never sell him.
I didn't see him.
He's up on
He's
the
in there.
wall. He's in
He's in the case.
So you got a blue snaggletooth. I wish I had one. Anyway,
I've got the first 22 on the wall.
That's what I'm shooting for behind me.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get all this back here. But you guys are a blessing. You guys are so much fun. You guys, I can't thank you enough for the Rule of the Galaxy listeners and followers, which there might be less starting next week. I don't know. Thank you for listening to us, and thanks for being a part of the show and all we do. I probably will take a break next week because I'm going to let the other crew go in here and talk about all this stuff we talked about.
Deal with the repercussions.
Yeah.
Right.
Behold the cleanup crew trying to make something happen.
Thank you to you guys. Rule the Galaxy. Follow us on Twitter, Rule the Galaxy SW. Rule the Galaxy SW at gmail.com. Just Rule the Galaxy everywhere else. And until next week, may the Force be with you.